Hi, and welcome to the Port to Port podcast. In today's episode, we're joined by Chris Goldsworthy. Chris is the Chief Executive at the Institute of Marine Engineering, Science and Technology. He's an incredible person with an incredible career, spanning 16 years at sea before coming ashore. He's worked in different countries around the world, and he's incredibly passionate about the industry. I hope you enjoy the episode.
So, Chris, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on in the Port to Port podcast. Obviously, my introduction is not going to do you justice. So, who are you? Where are you? And tell us a high level part of yourself. Well, a bit about yourself.
Thank you very much for the welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and speak on behalf of the marine sector. Fabulous career. Have thoroughly loved it. I was personally 16 years at sea, from cadet to chief engineer within one company. Then I was brought ashore as superintendent, where I then did 20 years ashore, moving from superintendent up to technical director. Thoroughly loved that as well, both owner, operator and third party. Different challenges, relished them all. I joined the IMarEST as a student member when I was a phase 1 cadet at South Tyneside Marine College, and hence have been a member of the IMarEST for 36 years now. So very well able to speak about what it's done to help me on my career journey. And I've got that passion and commitment with the team here to pass that to present and future members.
Excellent, excellent. So you obviously, when you don't sound like you're from Tyneside anyway, but where did you grow up?
With my father in the forces, we did move every few years, which probably explains the lack of accent, including being the last 20 years out of the UK, but predominantly grew up in the Lincolnshire area because of the number of old air bases there, as my father was RAF,
right? Okay.
Which is about as far from the sea as you can get in the UK.
Yeah. Do you thought you'd cover all bases? So generally, we do obviously like to kind of start it and see what the genesis story was in terms of how you get into the maritime side. So obviously, growing up on RAF bases is a bit different to obviously hitting the sea. So what sparked the interest?
Well, the first spark of engineering interest, I think, could be seen at 4 years old. My parents bought me a scrap car engine from a scrapyard, put it in the back garden and gave me my own toolkit. And I cannot count how many times that engine came apart and went back together. Occasionally in the right order, but I learned.
Did you ever get it running, or?
Oh yes, strange enough, was the engine the correct one for my dad's car?
Right.
So it was repurposed, shall we say? But on the marine engineering side,
sorry, carry on.
Yeah, on the marine engineering side, it was actually a change from what I vocationally was targeting and had aimed my O levels and A levels for. Something happened that I couldn't pursue that, so I went in Lincoln, about 40 miles from the sea, for a careers advice interview.
Right.
And as was normal, I was early. So they said, "Oh, sit at this table." And on the table in front of me was a career at sea with P&O containers. So I read it. When they called in, said, "So what are you going to do?" I said, "This." So 36, 37 years later, here I am.
Yeah. To be fair,
I loved every step of the way.
I can only imagine. But to be fair, in terms of being chief exec of IMarEST, it's insane that you were building, stripping engines at 4 years old. That's incredible.
I still enjoy getting the hands dirty.
Yeah, we've got 3 young kids, so we've got a 7, a 5, and a 3-year-old. But now I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to get them an engine. I was want to build them a go-kart, but I think I might just give it to them to do. That's insane. That's incredible. So did you start with Pino then? Is that where you began?
I was actually 18 years with them. So
Right.
16 years at sea, and then brought into the office as a fleet superintendent. So yes, 18 years, one company.
And can you remember your first trip?
I do indeed. Resolution Bay.
Right.
We circumnavigated down by Cape Town, back by Cape Horn. So my first trip to sea was around the world, and my father said on my return, well, you've been around the world, where's next? It was a difficult trip. There was very much that old mentality. I was told most days that I would never make it as a marine engineer, which made me extremely keen to prove them wrong. My second trip to sea was completely different in the leadership style. Was quite a quietly spoken chief engineer who asked for thoughts and input from others, and it was night and day. And it really showed me the kind of leader I would like to become if I ever reach the dizzy heights of being a chief engineer.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference and how lucky you can be in terms of what vessel you go into, especially at a young age.
Yes.
So did you spend quite a lot of time with that chief engineer, or was it just the one trip that marked it?
It was quite prevalent. That was the two ends of the spectrum. And I could see for some people, it might convince them, as it was a first trip, to not stick with it, this is not for me. But thankfully I did. And the breadth of the training, the resilience it builds, not only that style, but life at sea can take you anywhere in the world you want to go. So it's a fabulous career to be part of. I've got so much pride in what the people at sea and those supporting them ashore do. It's to be cherished.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's been the one thing that COVID brought, if anything, was a highlight, obviously, on seafarers and the perils, obviously, what they go through, and some people spending up to a year on board. But it's definitely it's an industry that should never be overlooked, really, but quite easily is.
Correct.
So, yeah,
because last year, 92% of everything that moved on the planet moved on water. If shipping stopped, everyone's way of life would change overnight. So the fact that seafarers were not key workers through COVID, I was involved at the time helping to run as a team a fleet of 52 bulk carriers that were worldwide trading on the spot market.
Yeah.
And the difficulty we had with crew changes, getting people home, even once they're relieved of the ship, was astounding.
Yeah. We put together, I think it was 2 flights that we put together, just trying to be decent. And naturally, with what we do in terms of the recruitment side, the amount of different companies that you know, so we pulled everyone together. I think we had CMA, I would be lying if I keep saying, so there's various different I think there was two ship management companies in Singapore, CMA, and I can't remember the other two. And we put 2 flights on, just repatriation flights, but because we'd pulled it together, it was affordable for others. And it blew. I think it was the first time I heard about it. It was like, wow, there's got to be something that can be done. And since I've heard of there's a few companies down in London that did the same. I think they had a regular flight every 2 weeks that they organised, and they would put out to the Caribbean, and they were doing crew changes over there. But it's incredible the ingenuity as well, obviously, of everyone to try and make it happen.
Yeah.
But obviously going back to your kind of earlier career, you obviously you sailed, as you said, for 16 years. How did you find it when you first became chief?
I would actually go back a stage earlier than that.
Carry on, yeah.
And say the biggest step change in my career, and something I've had to consciously relearn at various stages through my career that I've been lucky to enjoy, was the change on the old manning models from a watchkeeping engineer to a first engineer.
Right.
That's the first time you're not directly watchkeeping, not utterly devoted to hands-on, but as the working boss of the technical aspects of a vessel. Having that style that you can support others, coach others, mentor others, but not be doing it yourself, trusting others to do it, was a big culture change.
Yeah.
And so there are differences in leadership through the progression from watchkeeping junior to first engineer, chief engineer, then ashore. But there's a lot of common factors as well. It's that transparency, the involvement of others. Great ideas can come from anyone and everywhere. So it's having that open approach, being on receive as well as transmit, all the way through all the different levels, I think has been crucial help in getting me to where I am. And it's, I think, incumbent upon people to realize that as positions and careers change, the higher you go, the more percentage of your time should actually be given to mentoring and coaching people coming up behind. It really is part of the role, or should be.
Yeah, without a doubt. So when did you say that was, sorry? When did you feel as if that actually happened within your career, that you were being
When
more
I
of a
moved
mentor?
under the nomenclature of P&O containers that became P&O Ned Lloyd,
Yeah.
it was moving from a second officer engineering to a first officer engineering.
Mhm. And what did you when you were in that situation? Then obviously every step every step up you make, you've obviously been surrounded by people prior that have done it, and you've witnessed different people. When you first obviously got to first engineer, did you have what was your mentality? What were you thinking about? I want to be like this, or were you really driven on it, or was it, I'm just going to feel my way into this?
What I've always really enjoyed and still do is having that team identity, that team alignment, not group thinking. That's a step too far. Having active discussions, different opinions, great. But having that enthusiasm and passion within the team, all pulling in the same direction, can't be stopped. It's what makes a success compared to ticking a box.
Yeah. So then, if we carry on from there, did you spend your entire seagoing career with containers or Ned Lloyd? Yeah, before you came
Yes,
ashore. Yeah, and then you came ashore as a tech super with them.
correct.
When were you asked to come ashore, or did you want to come ashore?
I was asked, and it was on a new scheme that they had, which was meant to be rotating around the fleet, so that you would come in for 6 months as a super, then have a bit of leave, trip to sea, bit of leave, back in for 6 months, a 2-year stint, and then they'd pull someone else out from the fleet in rotation. They seemed to like how I did it, so I never escaped from the office again for the remainder of my career.
And what was your family situation at that point? Were you married with children, or?
Married with children, and it is a consideration, and it's part of our career development pathway that we've just launched to support people in that ship to shore transition.
Yeah.
Is that work-life balance, the implications on family, home life, and the requirements on them, especially if a country change is needed, which I have made a few times, but it is a complete package, and it has to be actively considered and supported.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
If I can say what did help me in that,
yeah,
shameless plug, was being a member of the IMarEST.
brilliant.
Because everywhere I moved to, there was a local branch.
Yeah.
And I could become a member of that branch, and I had an immediate support network that I could reach out to before I made the decision to move to that country, setting up whilst there, and then an ongoing community to be a part of to help with that setup and family life. So it really did pay dividends, that peer networking.
When did you join IMarEST?
1989.
1989. So what rank were you then?
I was a cadet engineer officer.
Okay, excellent. So he's right in the beginning.
Phase 1 at Marine College.
Good man. Good man. I like it. So I've been to a few of the dinners around Scotland. And it's a great environment, and there's some really interesting stories, to say the least, that within it. I can imagine it'd be the same no matter where you go in the world. So when you came ashore, obviously I do want to touch on the pathway as well at some point, but just in terms of your earlier career, when you came ashore as a tech super, was that in the UK, or did you initially move abroad?
No, straight away moved to Rotterdam.
Right.
I was there for 2 years until the takeover of the company. I then moved to Cyprus for 10 years. That was 5 years as superintendent, then technical manager with a very large third-party ship management company, where I worked exclusively with Japanese clients and loved that.
Yeah.
But still on the dry ships. Then after 5 years there, I moved to another ship management company, still in Cyprus, because I felt the lack of wet vessel experience. So I moved down the road to become fleet manager for a wet fleet. Then after 10 years in Cyprus, I took a great opportunity for an owner to move back to Rotterdam. They wanted to build from scratch an in-house ship management company. So as fleet director, I was given a clean piece of paper and build a company. So I did that as a project for 2 years. And then I moved to Hong Kong with my last company. It was a shrinking ship management company, again, third party, but with fresh owners, fresh investment. And with the top senior management team change, we did turn it around, and it became a very successful and ongoing company. So It has been a worldwide career. I've loved every stage at all the different levels.
See, when you made the step back to Rotterdam and you started from scratch, what were you hoping to, or how were you want to change how you'd seen it done in the past, or were you, okay, what did you want to implement in a different way? What was different?
What I wanted to implement was the understanding that the biggest client of any owner or manager should be the people on the ships.
Okay.
Their safety and support comes first all the time. So we wrote the safety management system, legalese free, electronic version, as a tool for the people on the ships to be able to use and reference as an active toolkit. And by enabling and empowering the people paid to do those professional jobs at sea, from a fairly high risk environment, we reduced it so that there were no insurance claims during those 2 years. And 6 months into building that process, we underwent a TMSA 2 audit where we had 0 non-conformities and 0 observations.
Well played.
It was fabulous. It really
Excellent. So, I mean, that's largely got to be down to bringing in the right kind of people with the same attitude as well. So, which is how do you think you can achieve that within an interview or an onboarding process, that you make sure that you're getting the right people, or did you bring people in that you'd already known?
No, they were all unknown to me, but it was by that personal interaction, that question process, the in-person interviews. Yes, Teams, Zoom, everything has come a long way, but probably I'm of an older generation where I value that face-to-face discussion.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
And what we do here is we also have a task-based presentation.
Right.
So we give someone 24 hours before a small task to present on for 10 to 15 minutes, and we see then their style in different modes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a good way of doing it. You hear a lot. I was visiting in person yesterday, one of our clients, kind of long-standing clients, and we were talking. So they're implementing a centre of excellence, and they're doing the exact same. So for new seafarers joining, it's exactly what they're trying to do. They're bringing them in, they're getting their tasks rather than they were actually saying that they were having problems with AI interviews and people not having cameras on and parents giving them answers for obviously this is the cadet side of things or the apprentice side. So it's interesting to hear that as well. And obviously you could have done it for years as well. In terms of before we obviously really tackle what you're doing at the moment, what would you say are the biggest, and this is more for people that might be either coming ashore or have came ashore and are working with either an owner or a manager, what would you say are the biggest differences in terms of the challenge for an individual at a superintendent level when they move from one or the other? So either coming from a manager to an owner to a manager. What would you say?
Well, the difference between an owner-operator and a third-party ship manager, with an owner-operator, you know most likely that the ships are going to be owned for a fair percentage of their operational life. So the return on investment calculations, the investment, the stability of the fleet structure is great because you can have that long-term planning. That's not a luxury that you have in third-party ship management, where with the financial ownership of vessels, a 2-3 year churn can be quite normal. So then any proposals for upgrading, retrofitting, that ROI calculation has to be a lot sharper and shorter. But both are great places to work. I've done both and I've enjoyed both. Coming ashore is a challenge. It is a different way of working. Rumor has it that it's a 9 to 5. It isn't.
Yeah, I've not heard that rumor.
But it's a great way to learn more about the sector and at a different level. Upcoming legislation, implementation of future planning for efficiency, upgrades, etc. Because when you're on a ship, you have one ship's problems. So you learn a lot from hands-on and from experience during sailing with that tonnage. When you're a superintendent, wet or dry, you might have 4 to 5 ships. So you've got that multiplier of experience and knowledge coming in, and you get to hear other challenges across the fleet. So it really is a great way to expand that experience. But that does come, of course, with always being on call.
Yeah, naturally, yeah. It's not quite a digression, but it's actually a conversation I had this morning with a gentleman out in Sydney, and he was basically he's on the fence of going for an MBA, for example. I think he's been superintendent for 4 years, and he's 39 years old, and he's looking to basically identify what he wants his career to be like. Now, yourself, there's so many people I know that are being chief engineers that have went in different ways and have reached different levels. Some have done MBAs, some haven't. And you're probably the perfect person to ask for it. What advice could you give to anyone that may be at the superintendent level but's thinking, I would like to go fleet director, I would like to move on. And if we can go right into the kind of granular side of it, how it can be done within an office environment where you can get more exposure to either harder challenges or more dry dockings or more budget control, or if we can talk around that'd be excellent.
Well, certainly working diligently, of course, at your job within that role, expanding the knowledge, absorbing that knowledge, translating it into ready at hand solutions is one way. External study would be another. And again, becoming part of a professional engineering institute with a marine focus like the IMarEST, building that peer networking, involvement with our special interest groups, of which there are 24, ship repair and maintenance, ship energy and environment being some, ship management, others, really puts you into that collaborative space to learn from others, solution to present challenges and opportunities, and really helps develop that peer network and exchange of ideas. So there is the external courses, which we have on our learning management system, but also others. But that contact, that engagement in the branch and special interest areas really helps take you out of that pigeonhole slot to give you that wider view of the sector and industry.
Yeah, okay. I think he's actually a member, to be fair. I'm going to double check on that.
If not, let me know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll get him in. Excellent. No, I appreciate that as well, because it was a live conversation this morning, and it's that's one thing I would say is because it's such a large industry and there's so many different elements to it that sometimes it can be, and I hear this a lot from people that are just coming ashore. They're not 100% sure on what they can do and where they can go and what it actually looks like. And as you say, the work-life balance of being a superintendent is perhaps different from what some think. So in terms of with the IMarEST side of things, so you're talking about the pathway that you have developed. What does that look like?
Well, we've changed it within the last 2 years, so that we have multiple across the engineering, science and technology, because we represent all three sectors equally, because then we can cover the full life cycle of developments within the sector, from identifying there's an issue, designing solutions, building test equipment, through to commissioning, full life cycle and decommissioning, all under that one umbrella. But what I would say is we previously had a career development pathway that had everyone going from, for example, a student to being CEO, which switched a lot of people off. So what we've done instead, and we've just launched our 8th one, that are sub-profession specific and manageable expectation chunks. So, for example, relevant to my background, we have from cadet to chief engineer, what you need for those different levels along the way, and also importantly for their career journey, how we can support them on their journey along the way, not what we get out of it, what we can do to help and guide them. So last year in May, we launched our mentoring program that's free for members, and it's safeguarded online and international. Last November, we launched courses with our portal, a new continuous professional development. There's the professional registration that can really make people stand out as a stamp on, I'm at this stage of my career. So there's a lot of resources and tools to help people available.
Excellent. Is a lot of that voluntary, or is that all within the team within IMarEST? Or
that's all free to members.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible. It does make a massive difference. In terms of you, then, so you're out. I'm conscious that you've not named anyone, so to give anyone some favourable attention. So I'll follow your lead on that. When you were out in Hong Kong, obviously, and this role came up, how did it materialise? Because it must be quite there's certain things within the industry that must feel like an honour to be asked to do certain roles.
Absolutely. It was, for example, when I was approached about this role, After being 16 years at sea and then 20 years in shoreside ship management in one form or another, I had reached the stage where, through personal consideration and aspects, I wanted to give back to the sector more. And when the headhunting company approached me about this role, but wouldn't name the organisation, after being 36 years a member, it was, I know who you mean. You can't. Trust me. There aren't that many.
Yeah.
And went through the process, the interviews, and hopefully, and sitting here, I expect so, my passion and commitment to the sector and what the Institute can do to shape and support the future for safety, for upcoming legislation, for people's career journeys along the way is fabulous. Mm-hmm. We've got such an enthusiastic, dedicated team to deliver that. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. That's great to hear. What are some of the highlights that you've had so far? Obviously, you've short time essentially in comparison to the rest of your career, but within the Institute, what would you say?
Well, launching the free mentoring for all members, and we actually use our members then at different stages as mentors, mentees. At a certain stage, you can actually be both. Launching the learning management system and courses was fabulous. Developing that legislative input for people from the sector to be part of future legislation. So what comes out at the end of the mill is usable, sustainable, and will do what it's meant to, is fantastic. For example, our volunteers are now on 14 working technical group committees at IMO. We're now, as of last year, an Ocean Decade implementing partner with UNESCO about ocean governance, ocean sustainability. So there's a lot that we're doing, but as always, we want to attract more people to engage with that, to do more.
Perfect. And is there anything that obviously you're passionate about the entire industry, but is there anything that you're almost surprised that you might not have thought would come or before you obviously joined? Is there anything that surprised you that you've really enjoyed more than you might not have even been conscious of it at the time?
I'm enjoying representing the IMarEST and the scope of what it can be done. We are waving the flag and putting us back on the map. For example, we've now launched 3 new branches, which is the first in IMarEST for 14 years. It's part of our new strategy that we delivered last October. There's 3 legs to that. The membership community, to answer that question, what's in it for me? Why should I be a member? The technical voice, establishing those enhanced relationships with legislative bodies, 8 of which we're part of, and the international presence. Because personally, these 2 years I've been the chief exec of IMarEST. It's my first employment within the UK. So I know what a big world it is out there and how we can help bring that safe and sustainable future to the sector with the input of our members and volunteers. We're in the journey together.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's in safe hands. In terms of obviously the industry's in a very interesting place at the moment in terms of all of the new technology, the advancement of even AI and the implementation, but largely the data side of things over the past, I'd say 6 years, you notice an insane difference to the kind of Formula One levels of insight. What would you say are so with that, there's a lot of noise surrounding it. What would you say would be, in your opinion, the best focus within that, whether it be new fuels or would it be more around the wind, the sail technology? Do you have anything within that that you would really focus on?
Well, we're active on all of those topics. We did release a mini documentary series a year and a half ago to try and simplify the noise around what is the road to net zero. Because, as you said, there's so much information overload out there. It really a case of, what does this mean for me? What's going to change? Generally, I completely agree with you. I think it's the most condensed period of change that the sector has ever faced in its history. The engineers coming up needed in 5 and 10 years' time will not have the same skill set as they do at present. So we really have to look at building that safe training framework, especially for future fuels. We're seeing ships delivered now and in service with alternative fuels. We need that training. We need that safe structure. So we're actively part of that as IMarEST, looking at STCW rewrites for mandatory training, repeat training, also on enclosed spaces, which is an age-old safety concern. But actual incidents of cases is rising. More than one person a day at sea loses their life from enclosed space entry. We have to do something about it, and relying on PPE should be the last step, not the first.
I didn't realise that. That's incredible numbers. Yeah, that's quite harrowing. You touched on there, I don't know if it seems appropriate, but it's in my head to ask, but you touched obviously on the new skills the engineers will need within the next 3 to 5 years. What would you say what's the change? Is this more towards automation? Is it more?
Well, the first thing to say is that AI is here. It's here to stay, and it will only develop. That does not mean we need less people. We need to reskill and upskill people, but it certainly does not mean less marine professionals are needed in any way, shape or form. The IMO has stated that this year there's going to be an estimated global shortfall of 89,500 marine professionals. We need to be actively attracting people to this fantastic career and profession that it is. So we need to make that message very clear. And something I've said around the world, there's a lot of headline news about new technology, new designs, retrofits, which is fabulous. Equal headline news should be given to the culture and support for the people on board and ashore that are going to use it and deliver the changes. That's the biggest variable factor in the future efficiency of shipping, is the people that are going to use and engage with this technology. So they have to be safely and adequately prepared for that.
It sounds like a running theme, obviously, through your career, your thoughts on that in terms of the safety culture and being people focused and being focused on the seafarers themselves. Within the AI side of things, what's your thoughts on it within the industry and the kind of short term, not necessarily in terms of taking the kind of high level side of taking people's jobs, but where do you feel it can make the most impact?
What would be very interesting, and where we're also very active, is in promoting human-centered design. It's not something that we build a fantastically technologically advanced system and off it goes. How is that human-machine automation interface? Does it reduce fatigue? Does it reduce distraction? Does it actually help us to make it a safer, efficient, sustainable system? So really promoting that human element section for the future of automation, AI use and integration we think is critical.
Excellent. Well, I'm very conscious of time here, so I don't want to take up too much of it. You've been very generous with it already. So one of the things that we always ask is when it's your first memory of being on board a ship or being down at the port with family. What can you share anything in that?
My first time turning up to the Resolution Bay,
right,
in Tilbury, with so many bags because I didn't know what I had to take. I over-prepared. I saw this wall in front of me and thought, that moves? And then the next one was, how do I find my cabin? It was huge. And that size of ship at the time was the world's biggest container ship.
Oh, wow,
the
right.
same ship now would be a feeder ship. So it's that initial appreciation and that initial inclusivity and diversity welcoming of people to the sector will only help us get people to stay and commit to the sector and reduce that shortage of people. So we really have to go out of our way to welcome and attract people, because until you've set foot on a ship, you've no idea. You may have done your research, due diligence, but being confronted with it in real life is always a shock.
And feeling the vibrations for the first time that lasts.
The sights, the smells, the vibration, it's amazing. It really is.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a perfect place for us to end. So thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. It has been a pleasure. And I'm sure we'll end up with getting plenty of questions that will come out of it. But is there anything, obviously, before you go that you want to kind of highlight within what you're doing within IMarEST, anything that's upcoming? I know you've got a big dinner coming up in London as well.
We do, and we welcome members and non-members to the dinner. We are doing more outreach, more events around the world as well as part of that international strategy. We just look forward to people finding out about us, seeing how we can help them about their journey. We are here to help people with the continuous learning, with the development, with the peer networking, and also getting involved in shaping the safe future of the sector. It's a fabulous place to be a part of that member community. There's a reason I've been a member for my whole career. And yes, even though I'm CEO of the IMarEST, I still pay my membership fees.
Glad to hear it. Surely you could have negotiated that as a perk.
I do it as a statement of principle.
Yeah, that's it. Good man. Chris, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you very much.